Hey everybody, it's Tim Van Orden coming to you from the trails behind my house. And it is peak foliage here in Woodford, Vermont. So I wanted to come out and do some filming with my high resolution camera, which I will show you some of that footage at the end of this video. Anyway, I'm 2 weeks into having a cast on my wrist/thumb. And I wanted to give you an update into my process and my thinking because it's really caused me to take my tools and expand them in a much more, I want to say radical manner, but I mean radical in the original sense of the word, which means to get to the root, to get back to basics. Radish comes from the same root as radical. So a radish is in the ground, it is the root. Anyway, so what I mean by that radical usage of my tools is that I've really taken my gentle, curious approach and turned the dial all the way up. Because having my dominant hand in a cast necessitates that I really take my time and that I'm super careful about how I'm framing things, how I'm framing where I am, how I'm framing what I had that I could lose, and how I frame where I'm going. And I've taken that and reduced it into a very, very small experiential bubble so that I've got a little bit of past, I've got a little bit of future, but mostly what I'm doing is informed by the present as it interacts with that little future and little past. But if I try to take a big future and a big past, it's going to overwhelm the present, and the present is going to become intolerable, and I will be miserable, and I will give up for a while. I will feel defeated. And that's what I'm seeing with many people in my life right now, is this sense of defeat. I don't know if it's because what's going on in the world and what we're seeing in the media and social media. Winter is coming. That always kind of puts people in a state. We're still kind of lingering in the illness era. I don't want to say the word. Anyway, I'm seeing people struggling because there's a sense that we need to be large and in charge. And personally, that's been something that has really defined my life because at my core, I am profoundly insecure. So much of my life has been a series of projects trying to establish myself as worthy, trying to increase my rank so that people would accept me and want to relate to me or with me. And that failed over and over and over again, and my sense of self-worth never improved. And that led to depression after depression after depression, which led to pretty much a permanent state of identity depression. But that's okay, because I don't function with my identity in the driver's seat anymore, or at least I do so as little as possible. So, large and in charge. What do I mean by that? A big story that makes sense, where I feel like I'm in control. I've got a purpose, I've got meaning, I've got significance, and I'm the one that's bringing it about. I have the ability to kind of control my environment and other people in it and outcomes. I'm the person that gets results. But as many of you may know, the world's a pretty complex place. People don't do what you want them to do, and they shouldn't, unless you're cooperating and collaborating and there's compromise on both sides, or negotiation. But the world doesn't do what you want. The world is not your oyster. It's not here for you to do as you will. And once you acknowledge that, once you recognize that you're just a piece in this grand drama called life, and you're no more significant than anyone else, and you can allow that to be true, then you let go of this idea that I need to be significant. I need to be larger than life. And it's interesting when people say things like that. He's larger than life. To me, that's not a good thing. I want not to be larger than life, nor do I want to be smaller than life. I want to be embedded in life. I want to be engaged in life. I want to acknowledge the physical world, like the fact that my shoulder is completely burned out by holding this camera awkwardly with my cast. And I want to say, oh, look at that. There's a biological limit in my shoulder. I have exhausted the fuel, or I can no longer keep up with the waste products that are accumulating. My shoulder is failing. Okay, I will take this hand and I will support my elbow. But I have to acknowledge that there's a real limitation there, and then work with it. And look at that, I can continue to film. So this idea that we need to be large or larger than life, that we need to somehow be eternal and significant and have meaning that gets passed on through generations. Like, how do you want to be remembered? What does other people's memory have to do with me? I don't need to be remembered. I need to be here. I need to be present, not preserved. So if you can let go of the idea of needing to be large and significant, then all these super important projects that you've been stressed about, well, they're not as important anymore. They're not as urgent anymore, because they're not really going to deliver what you had hoped they would deliver. And that's okay, because life is built out of moments. Life is built out of these little tiny experiences like this one, where I'm looking ahead at this orange, yellow, green tunnel, and I can see in the camera that there's one behind me, and I'm just present here and now, and I'm talking to a camera, by the way, which is strange because there's nobody else here. I'm imagining you as the audience, being present with me. But I'm here. I can feel the slight breeze. I can hear the wind in the treetops. I can hear individual leaves falling around me gently. It's a moment that has just as much value as anything I will ever do as an identity trying to be significant. In fact, I would assert that just being present here and to that falling leaf in front of me has more value than any of the identity projects that I've engaged in. So rather than large and in charge, I'm going to be small and complementary. I'm going to be just big enough to be present to this moment, just big enough to work with this moment, to complement this moment, but no bigger, no smaller. It's not that I'm insignificant or significant. It's that I'm in an appropriate ratio to the moment. Not too much future, not too much past, not too much need for significance, but just here. The second part of large and in charge is the charge part. A will that can bend the world to its bidding. If I will it, it happens. If I will my body to do something, it happens. If I will the universe to do something, if I want it bad enough, I can manifest it. Well, what happens if we let go of that? What happens if we look at the word charge in its original sense, which means to flow? So in a movie, when you've got all these people about to go into battle, what does the leader say? Charge! Charge doesn't mean control. It means go. It means flow. In electricity, we talk about charge, and it means flow, the flow of electricity. Now, people mistakenly believe that electrons are moving, and that's what causes electricity. It's the flow of electrons, but it's not. It's the flow of charge from atom to atom. And the electrons aren't actually moving from point A to point B, or A to Z at great distance. They're exciting the atoms next to them. So the excitement is what's passing. The charge is the flow. So if you can recognize that charge is not about domination or control, that it's about letting yourself go. Charge! Yeah, I'm going, I'm flowing. So being in charge really means being in flow, a flow state. And how do we get into flow states? By not thinking about what we're doing, by not trying to control it. If you see someone playing a musical instrument and they're just totally into it and their fingers are moving so quickly on the instrument, and you're like, wow, could you tell me exactly what you're doing with each of those fingers? They can't. And if they try, they won't be able to play the music like they can when they're not thinking, when they're not trying to control it. So the part of the brain that the will exists in or comes out of, arises from, is not the part of the brain that causes us to move into flow states. You can't will a flow state. A flow state occurs when you stop willing, when you allow yourself to be present to what is. And when I say what is, I'm not just talking about what's around you, but what is you. So my body has a set of current capabilities, and that also includes my brain. Now, do I let them go? Do I let them flow? Or do I try to manage them? Do I tell my feet how to navigate this very rocky terrain? Or do I just let my feet do what they know how to do? And I can just observe. I can observe all the joints moving and bending in a way appropriate to keeping me upright and stable on very uneven terrain. It's crazy rocky here. Very chunky. But I have no problem navigating it. In fact, I can do it with my eyes closed because my feet get information about the stones that they're stepping on, and they translate that to each joint, each bone, each muscle, each tendon, each ligament. And there are adjustments that are made to keep me from falling. One of my favorite things to do is to run without looking at the trail, because I trust that my body knows what to do. I trust that it's getting feedback from each point of contact in the chain of movement. But if I try to will it and control it, I will fall. If I try to pick where I'm going to put my foot or how I'm going to bend my knee or ankle, I will fall. So if I can let go of the need to be in charge and to consciously control everything, and I can let myself flow, well, then I get to experience all of my current capabilities, which have nothing to do with what my identity believes that it can do. So this brings me back to the beginning of this conversation, the need to be large and in charge. And if the identity or the will or the sense of self doesn't feel that it's in charge or large, then you get a sense of defeat and people give up and they cope, because that defeat is intolerable and they don't know how to be with themselves, because what is being mirrored to them is not the world or even their own current capabilities. What is being mirrored is their virtual sense of self. I imagine myself to have these capabilities or to lack these capabilities. That may or may not be true. I show up to many, many races, in fact, most races, feeling like crap, feeling like I can't do the job, but I know that's not representative of what I can actually do, so I just let my body run the race. I don't try to control it, and I'm always surprised. My body can always do much, much more than my identity imagined. My identity was terrified. It was afraid it was going to be found out. It was afraid it was going to lose its rank somehow. But if I can just let that go, if I can let my body do what it has been trained to do, then I get to see what I'm currently capable of. And of course, my identity wants to take credit, but it wasn't part of the process. So to sum this up before my shoulder falls off, we need to let ourselves be small, and we need to let ourselves flow with what is around us and what is within us. What can I do? I don't know. Let me find out. Let me move, let me engage, and let's see what my body and brain are actually capable of in this moment, in this situation, in this local surrounding, in this mostly present time frame, with a little bit of past and a little bit of future. If you can do that, then it doesn't matter that your hand is in a cast or you've got arthritis in your ankle, which I now do as well. None of that matters. I'm here, I'm taking steps, I'm engaging, and I don't need there to be significance. I simply need to be present and let myself go. Let myself be in charge, in flow. All right. I hope that helps. I'll see you soon.